Hello, I'm Betty Herbert, and I've been promising for ages to make a video showing you my foreign edition, so I'm finally got round to doing it today. This is the original British cover of the 52 Seductions that loads of you will recognise. And it's really interesting to use this as a starting point because you can see that, that straight away the Spanish edition just uses that cover. Now bear in mind there's no cherries in the book. So when I then show you the Polish edition, the covers change, but there are still cherries there mysteriously. And that's a really great introduction to the really weird and wonderful world of having your book published in loads of languages, because as a writer you have no control over it whatsoever. The selling of that book happens when you're absent. It happens at book fairs and it happens with foreign rights scouts and foreign rights agents. And the most you know about it ever is when the deal's done. You get a letter to say, we've sold your book, here's how much you're going to get. And then the next thing you know, it comes out and you receive a copy of it. And I don't get any contact with the translator or the publisher in between those times. And I rarely have done any publicity abroad. But as you can see, there is my book. There are my words that I wrote, but in a totally different language. Sometimes with very amusing footnotes. I think I just saw a footnote there, where they've obviously explained something that you've been incredibly English about. And there is Money Shot. Gosh, that's a bit ruder than I normally am, actually. I think there's one where they describe Coronation Street and QI. Yeah, so it's a really weird experience because I can't read Spanish. And so now I kind of recognise some of the words, but I don't really understand what it says. So I can't tell you whether they've done my book justice or not. And that's a very unnerving experience, really. I mean, I suppose Spanish I've got half a chance, but when it gets into Polish, the language is so utterly different to anything I could possibly understand. And I can't make it out at all. And that is kind of unnerving. You almost have to put it out of your mind. I was really surprised that the translators don't, email you and say hello. They just get on with it and do it, and I expect they probably have to do it in a very short amount of time for not much money, as with the rest of the publishing industry. So, yeah, that's something that I guess, and I imagine this is true for other writers, is quite an uncomfortable feeling, not really understanding whether you had control over how your words came out. And what's interesting, this is the Polish edition, there's a Serbian edition as well, which I don't seem to have a copy of. I'm not sure if that's because they didn't send me it, or if it's because I've lost it. I hope I haven't lost it. But that actually changed my name to obviously something that fitted better into their language. So loads of really kind of strange, undermining experiences that you just have to almost put out of your mind. Which brings me nicely to the German edition, because the Germans went for proper full-on sexiness. Herbert loves this cover, of course. For me, I don't like it. I don't think it really represents the book. And it's quite interesting. If you go on German Amazon, which Herbert has, you'll find lots of kind of slightly confused German readers saying, oh, I thought this was something that it wasn't. Because to me, the book is a humorous book that happens to be about sex. But you can see that they've actually changed the formatting inside the book of this for the first time, of those three that we've looked at. And once again, I can pick up odd words, but very little. So there's German. And then we come to, I think, one of my favourite covers, which is Brazilian Portuguese. They've called it a seduction a week. I think even my poor Portuguese can pick that up. And they've gone for this lovely retro cover, which I totally love. And I also love the Brazilians because they came and said hello to me on Facebook, which made me really happy. And I occasionally get letters from readers in Brazil. Never done any publicity there, but it's so nice to hear from them about that. So there's Brazilian. I was really hoping they'd invite me to Brazil to launch it, but no. Which then brings me to Israel. I don't think I realised that Israeli books appear backward to an English reader. I didn't know that. Love the cover for Israel. It's really modern and funny and nicely designed. Just looks really clean. I have been interviewed by some journalists in Israel, so that was nice. I don't know how it's selling. That's another thing. I kind of thought you'd get like monthly sales reports or something, but you don't. But this is the fascinating thing about the Hebrew edition. I mean, look at this text. It's just, I mean, I guess there's probably, you know, a few people in the UK who can read this if they're Jewish, but of course I'm not. And it's just, I don't know. I couldn't even begin to read it, and that's such an odd experience. I have absolutely no idea how my voice comes across in Hebrew. It looks beautiful, and I'm completely fascinated by it, but it might as well be in Martian for all I understand of it. And it's interesting because some Israelis have now followed me on Facebook and things like that, and they sometimes send me messages on Facebook that I just can't read. Yeah, and presumably that's my name in Hebrew, which is sort of magical and scary and weird at the same time. And then finally, this has got to be my absolute favourite. This is traditional Chinese. And I can't tell you how much this edition excites me. You can see that they've actually kept my name in English letters. But what's fantastic about this, apart from the fact that it is so otherworldly, is that they have this kind of, what would I say, like a modesty screen here, so that you can read the first few pages, and look here, lovely, beautiful traditional Chinese script with Anne Summer written in the middle, and I assume there's a note at the bottom to tell you what Anne Summer and M&S and Boots all are. But this is quite a clever thing. There's obviously a few pages that you're allowed to read in the bookshop, and then the rest of it's sealed. And I haven't unsealed this one. But yeah, that's quite an interesting thing. The design is really elaborate and very beautiful. And it's got these really nice covers. So yeah, that's my absolute favourite one. The traditional Chinese, and it feels incredibly, unspeakably exotic to me, and of course it's probably very everyday out there. But yeah, so that's a very short little survey of what it feels like to have books come out in lots of different languages. I think I haven't got all of them there, but it's obviously in English, and then it's come out in lots of English territories like South Africa and Australia and places like that. It recently came out in America. And then French, it sold, but they went bankrupt before it could come out. Spain, Portugal, Brazil, Poland, Serbia, Israel, and I think traditional Chinese is Taiwan, rather than actual China. So yeah, that's a little whirlwind tour of the experience of having a book out in lots of different languages.